part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another edition of the Reghi and Roda podcast, powered by MGM Northfield Park, right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out to our fantastic producer and CEO of Press Play Podcast Network, Chase Smith, filling in today for Jordan Powell. Thanks, Chase, for getting up with us or staying up or whatever you're doing to make sure we can talk about this crappy Browns loss today on the road at Atlanta to an inferior team with Marcus Mariota as the quarterback. The Browns fall 23-20, Michael Reghi, and another disgusting, embarrassing loss by the Cleveland Browns in a game that they should have won.
Eminently winnable football game. That, yes, you go down there. Who's got the better roster? Just look over the whole rosters of both football teams. You got the better roster in virtually every position group. And, Kenny, that you come up with some of the same things that have failed this team previously. You got to win football games like this. What do we say every week, man? There's only 17 of these.
Yep.
You can't let games like this where you are the superior football team get away and not come up with a win, and that's exactly what they did, and we'll get into it all, right? But, I mean, every faction of that football team is responsible for that L.
Yeah, and I know Myles Garrett didn't play, and that was the right move, by the way. I hope he's feeling better. He's lucky to be alive, so that was the smart move, not playing him today. Jadeveon Clowney out, I get it. So they were dinged up on the defense, but when you watch the game, they still looked like the better team, and they should have won the game, Michael. And I guess the blame game, where do we put the blame for today's loss? Is it on Kevin Stefanski? Is it on Jacoby Brissett, Joe Woods' defense, the players? Do you want to start with the opening drive and work our way through the game there? Because, Michael, the first 4 plays were spectacular calls, spectacular execution. All plays went for 10 yards or more and a first down, but then they get in the red zone and it all went to hell in a handbasket.
Tremendous opening drive. Well conceived.
Yep.
Certainly, again, first downs, get in the red zone. As you said, now there start to be some questions unfolding. Look, to me, Ken, I mean, you've got one of the top run games in the National Football League. You can't just start to, I think we're gonna try to outsmart defenses now, and
right.
Let's have Brissett roll out and look in the end zone and throw the football. And Kenny, again, in first quarters, I'm going to stay with this hard and true.
Right.
I have my entire broadcasting career. First quarters, Ken, always take the points. Always. 4th and 3, man. Come on. Take the damn points. Get the lead. Have something that is beneficial from that good drive we just talked about. Came out, looked real good. Put the points on the board. Kenny, it almost does it not. It never fails. When you don't take points early in a football game, you can almost bet 9 or 10 of them are going to come down to a close game decided by a final drive for one football team, and you sure as hell wish you had those points, right?
Absolutely, Michael. 4th and 3 from the 4-yard line. So you could still get a first down at the 1, but the analytics tell Stefanski, hey, we're going to go for it. We're going to be aggressive. He's been, if one thing, I'll give him credit if credit is deserved here for one thing. He's been consistent with his, tenure in Cleveland, going for it in those situations. But, Michael, don't you as a head coach have to look at your roster depleted, right? Number 1 quarterback not there, backup quarterback, and we'll get to the quarterback and why he's a backup for a reason. Don't you have to take points when you can get them, when you have a depleted roster and you have trouble scoring points and you're right out of the gate, you come down there, you kick the field goal. And here's what he said. And I give Tony Grossi credit for asking about not kicking the field goal on the opening drive and following up on it. Stefanski, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not going to be results based. I'm going to fall back on our process and try to put our guys in a position to succeed.
What does that mean?
Michael, it's a results-based league. Wins and losses. What are the results? The results there,
you don't need to go
points.
further than that. That's right. Exactly. You don't put points on the board. So you get nothing out of, again, a very well-conceived drive.
Yes.
Everything worked the way you wanted to in both facets of your offensive game, and then you decide not to take points to take the lead. I don't understand that, Kenny. Look, as I said, I want to make it real clear. To me, of course, we get in the second half of football games. Well, now things change. It's different from time to time. But to me, in first quarters, if I feel I've got the superior football team, Ken, which I certainly hope the Browns felt they did today, because they did, I'm taking the points all the time. All the time. I'm never leaving points out there in the opening quarter of a football game when I have the superior team. It's foolish, Ken. It makes no sense.
Message to Kevin Stefanski. All right. Check your damn Ivy League ego at the door. This is the National Football League, where there are other guys out there that are as smart as you, if not smarter. Check yourself before the game and realize what puts your team in the best position to win. And we need to get points on the opening drive, whether that's 7 or 3. Put the points on the board. You end up losing by 3. It came back to bite him in the ass in the end. Check your ego, Kevin Stefanski, at the door, please.
Yeah, well said, because, again, unless that happens, Kenny Roda, that might not be the last time you see something like this. Again, you rush for, I believe it was $179 today. You run for 179 yards. Nick Chubb with his 5th straight 100-yard performance.
Yep.
Again, we know the Browns have one, and you don't win because, again, against an inferior football team, because of some coaching decisions that kind of make you think, as you just said, right? I mean, this is results-based business. You're damn right it is, as in win or you suffer. And because when you lose too many of these, Kevin, you're not going to have your job to have an opportunity to make these kind of decisions.
Michael, Atlanta completed 7 passes. There were 7
Kenny,
of 19 with Marcus Mariota. No touchdowns and an interception. You held them to 139 yards passing without Myles Garrett, Taven Bryan, Jadeveon Clowney, and whoever else. And you lost the game 23-20. You outgained them. You out-timed them as far as time of possession. And you lose this game. So that the question is, who deserves the blame for this? Is it Stefanski because he's the head man and the play caller? Is it Joe Woods' defense who, by the way, gave up double-digit points again in the fourth quarter, blew yet another fourth quarter lead, right? Yeah. Is it on the players for not executing what Stefanski was trying to get them to do? Where does the blame? Is it Brissett, the backup quarterback, or are we asking too much of him to try and lead the team down to a game-tying field goal or a game-winning touchdown drive? No, that's your job. Who's to blame for this one, Michael?
It's got to start with a head football coach, to me, because, you have you got your game plan together. And again, in my opinion, regardless of whether Garrett or Clowney played or not, to me, you got the superior football team, and you got to be able to win a game like that. I mean, Kenny, we know. I think say, well, it's only 4 games. We know what the difference is between 3-1 potentially and 2-2. I mean, that's going to have ramifications as the year goes on, because they know, every one of them knows they came back here. Damn, how did we lose that and let that get away to an inferior football team? No. Look, to me, it starts with Kevin Stefanski and his coaching staff. You're absolutely right about Joe Woods. There's got to be a lot of, I think, maybe painful and stressful, though, looks into that defense. Then you get into playing personnel, Kenny. I don't know. I'm just not one to if Garrett and Clowney would have been there. No, listen, this is the NFL. Right. These guys that you have as twos, right? Your twos These are NFL players that, what do you have them there for as backups? Because you expect them to do the job. And over the course of a 17-game season, a lot of your backups are going to be extremely key, Kenny, and have a big factor into whether it's win or lose. Again, you combine that with Joe Woods. We really got to start taking a look at. I think, although that's the problem, you don't get a real strong look. See it exactly. I mean, there are times, Ken, philosophically, I'm not sure what he's trying to get done. I really not. And therein creates to me a real big issue.
Michael, I look at this game and I see things repeating themselves. Blown coverage in the fourth quarter. They give up, what was it? I wrote it down here. Fourth quarter, 42-yard pass play plus a 15-yard penalty on Ward. It was 2nd and 10 at the Atlanta 9-yard line. And Zacchaeus, I don't know who the hell this guy is. That was left wide open over the middle of the field. And then Ward grabs a face mask, and all of a sudden it becomes a 57-yard play. We've seen that, 3 times in 4 games blown. Oh, we got the communication. All right, let's have a players-only meeting to work out the communication. Well, guess what? It happened again in the crunch time of the 4th game of the season. That reared its ugly head again. Kevin Stefanski questioning his play calling. Joe Woods, questioning his defense. Jacoby Brissett not able to lead the team down late in the game. For a fan, don't give me this. Well, Roadman, he did it in week 1 against Carolina. You know why that drive was successful? They got a 15-yard roughing the passer penalty that allowed them to move the ball down, and he only got them to the the 41-yard line, and they had to rely on a 58-yard field goal to win that game. So Jacoby Brissett, hey, backup quarterback, as good as anybody in the National Football League.
Sure. Game
manager, absolutely. But when the game is on the line, Michael, the pressure's there. He does not perform, and that's why he's a career backup.
And you and I both of us got on the Twitter and made our thoughts on that apparent today as it happened. You just said it well. Look, when I put it, Kenny, when we've seen it in week 1 and week 3. Brissett, the whole key to me is having him play with a lead. When he plays with a lead, Kenny, yes, I mean, he's steady. He'll keep you in the right position in terms of what you're doing offensively. He had not turned the ball over in the games 1 and 3. Right. And again, so you play with the lead and you get a Brissett who, he's got a good handle on how you do enough things to have the offense maintain that lead, right? Keep that lead.
Yeah.
But Kenny, it is a whole different animal, and we know what are the best of the best quarterbacks? What is their main MO and how they've buttered their breads? Because it's how about when you're behind and a game is tied in the 4th quarter and you got to put a drive together. Yep. Kenny, today after they went behind, he took a horrendous sack on 2nd down.
Yep,
you cannot. Throw the ball away, Jacoby. You can't take that 9-yard sack there. Can't.
Michael.
I'm sorry, cannot. And then the very next snap, again, threw into, I looked at it 10 times, and that's why I said double coverage for sure. Might have been triple coverage.
Okay.
Pick. Just the same thing he did in the loss to the Jets in week 2.
It was almost identical play, identical spot on the field. And you're right. That's sack. Michael, he throws the ball away on 4th down on the first drive when you want to at least get it in play, because if an interception happens in the end zone, no big deal. You were going for it on 4th down, right? So he throws it away there, but he takes the sack instead of throwing it away late in the game. I mean, those are mental mistakes made by the quarterback. That's not on Stefanski right there, okay? No. Yeah, you can question the play calls, but that's on the quarterback, knowing game, down, time, situation, yards to go. Throw it in the end zone. If it gets intercepted, it gets intercepted. So what? You were going for it on 4th down. Can't take a sack there. Nope. Get rid of the football. That's the quarterback upstairs.
Yeah, well, and you have to, have the presence of mind to be able to do that. And look, Kenny and I we've given a lot of praise, and rightfully so, to Jacoby Brissett, and we'll continue to do so. But by the same token, I mean, again, this is 2 times now. 2 times when the Browns have fallen behind, and he's got the football in his hands, and absolutely not good from poor decisions, and then poor decisions just in terms of down distance, and then Kenny throws that are made. Wow. I know the man thinks he's got a howitzer and all this and that, but you start throwing into double and triple coverage with games on the line, man, I'm going to tell you that nothing good's going to happen out of that. So to me, Kenny, 4 games in, we've kind of got this right now. He's going to play, 7 more, right?
Right. Yep.
It's almost incumbent. The Browns got to establish leads early and then maintain them. And it seems as if that's when Brissett, again, keeps everything steady, calm, and in the 2 wins has done what he's supposed to do, be able to maintain the lead. But in the 2 that he's fallen behind, we've just described. He has come apart decisively with the football in his hands, with a chance to go put the Browns back on top. So, you said it a few minutes ago. This is what career backups are. And that's why for 9 years, and I know he started a little bit in Indy, but that's why he's generally in the spot he's in, because, big-time quarterbacks and forget starting quarterbacks in the NFL. You got to feel good that when your team's behind in the 4th quarter, they can put a drive together for you, make the right decisions and the right throws to get you back in top. I have not seen that Brissett is capable of that at all.
I'll rephrase the great quote from Denny Green. They are who we thought they were. He is who we thought he was, right? That's who he is. And so, you know what? He's a 500 quarterback. And if he can get them to 5-6 based on the schedule that's ahead, I think the Browns would take that and turn things over to Deshaun Watson. So we'll see, though, if he can get them to 5-6 at the 11-game mark. All right, Michael, we got to get a break in here. First time we get a break on this edition of the Reghi and Roda podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. And a shout out again to our title sponsor, MGM Northfield Park. Northfield Park, your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening with a 6 p.m. post time. Wager and win daily on top thoroughbred and harness tracks from around the world, with action starting around noon. Plus, enter to play the free handicapping contest every Sunday for a chance to win cash and your top prize. How about $500? Registration begins at 11 a.m. Free admission and free parking every day at Northfield Park. And when we come back, we'll dive into some of the numbers from the 23-20 loss to the Falcons, react to some of the quotes from head coach Kevin Stefanski, and look ahead to next week's opponent, the LA Chargers, when the Reghi and Roda podcast continues on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, I'm Jason.
And I'm Gary, and we love ball cards.
And if you love ball cards too, good news. You just found your new favorite podcast. From breaks to grading.
And from collecting to flipping, join us on the Ball Card Show.
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
And we continue with the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, and it's all brought to you by MGM Northfield Park. And Michael, I want to get your reaction to some of the quotes from Kevin Stefanski, or as our buddy Dick in Dayton calls him when he calls the Kenny and JT show. He calls every time and he says the same, "Run the ball, Stefanski." So here are some quotes from Kevin Stefanski, and I want your reaction to some of these today, all right? Beginning of his press conference. "Very, very disappointing loss. I need to own a large part of that." Your thoughts on that quote as he started his press conference off?
Ken, very simply, I believe if we go back, every Cleveland Browns loss during his tenure as a head football coach, that's how he starts it out. Put this one on me. Well, Kevin, okay, if you're going to continue to do that, as I said, if I'm the decision maker and the owner, then you're telling me that if you're, I get it, I'm going to protect my players.
Right.
And his assistant coaches, evidently.
Boy.
But I'll just say, if I'm the owner that hired him, I've got a lot of questions about this continued repeat response to every loss. Put this on me. It's on me. All right, Kevin, I'm going to put it on you then. And here's also what I'm going to tell you. It better damn stop now then. Okay? Do something about it. If it's on you, then you better do something about it because you're the head football coach, or I'll do something about it.
Fair enough. How about this one? 1 for 3 in the red zone, and I'm paraphrasing here, is not good enough. We wanted to score 7s in the red zone. That falls squarely on me. 7s, he called them. 7. What's he at the craps table? He's rolling. He thinks he's rolling 7s every time.
Yeah.
Well, you know what happens when you play craps too much? You crap out, and that's what he did today.
7 come 11, baby. Listen, again, I go back. Kenny, he better start taking points when he's got an opportunity to, and a must in opening quarters. You can't let that drive come away without points on the board. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're playing a high school team. You got to finish that drive off by putting points on the board. And 4th down and 3, a long 3 is, I'm going to tell you, you like playing analytics and numbers, Kevin? Well, I'm going to tell you that 4th and 3 is probably converted down there. I don't know. I'm going to say maybe high 20s to 30% of the time. So take the points.
I'm with you. You and I are in agreement on that. And what happened there? They didn't get 3. Atlanta takes it down the field. They get 3, a 6-point swing right there, and you end up losing by 3 points. Just throwing it out there, right? All right, he was asked about the big pass play in the 4th quarter again. 42 yards from the 9-yard line, and you went into Browns territory after the 15-yard penalty, and I'm paraphrasing again. We dropped the coverage. We'll have to look at it. Michael.
We looked at it and we saw it. Yeah, you dropped the coverage all right.
I mean,
receivers running free. Kenny, if a guy makes a contested catch, okay.
Right.
Tip my cap.
Yep.
And again, receivers running free 12, 15, 18 yards in the secondary. How? Why? It happens repeatedly. Don't understand it.
Fireable offense for happening 3 times in the first 4 games if you're Joe Woods. And I don't care who's rushing the quarterback, who's healthy, who's not. The back end of the secondary, my understanding, they were healthy today, right? They were out there, right? Nobody was really dinged up back there. Delpit's back there. John Johnson III's back there. Denzel Ward's back there.
Ward and Newsome on the corners.
All those, right? So to me, that's on your defensive coordinator, and Joe Woods should wake up unemployed tomorrow morning, in my opinion, because it happened last year too.
Yeah, and you're right, and that's the key here. This is a repeat offense.
Yes,
with a bad defense for no defense for what he's got going on for Joe Woods. So I am really starting to look at Woods and the position coaches defensively, Kenny, and they got to be told that it's got to stop. It has
results-based league in a win-loss league. You keep your job by winning games. You lose your job by losing games. You get results when you score points. positively, you get negative results when you don't score points. So it is a results-based league. Don't give me this analytical bullshit that we're hearing from this front office time and time again. And I said it earlier, and maybe it's not just Stefanski, maybe the entire front office needs to check their damn Ivy League egos at the door, right? And maybe think about, hey, the logical choice there is to take the 3 points instead of trying to be smarter than everybody else and go for it on 4th and 3 because we still have the whole game left to play. Well, those 3 points lost you the game today.
As they will more times often than not, if that's what you decide to keep doing. So we'll see. We'll see if this loss in Atlanta today to an inferior football team puts the light on with Kevin Stefanski and his coaches and, the coordinators. And, Kenny, I don't know. What do you think about too? I'm almost ready to go out and say, I want to have Alex Van Pelt call the damn place.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Michael, I'm fine
with
that.
All right.
Yes, absolutely. Be a head coach. Worry about more than just the offense because guess what? You need to fix things on defense and special teams, not just the offense. And you can't do that if you're so caught up in trying to outsmart, the opposition's defensive coordinator with your game plan of calling plays and in-game calling plays, and you ignore your other duties as a head coach.
Yeah, that's right. And again, today, now this is, again, coming off that tremendous performance from Amari Cooper. I mean, it was like today he wasn't even there running routes. And, and I'll tell you one thing, too. To me, look at the 4 games. They can't get, for whatever reason, Jacoby Brissett, cannot get your 2 top receivers, Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones, involved in the same game. It's either one or the other.
Right.
Go back and look at it, Ken. I'm talking about targets, too. Now, unless you're going to tell me in those 2 football games, 2 games that you didn't use Cooper at all, and the 2 games that you didn't use Peoples-Jones at all, that, you want to blame it all on them? Well, they weren't getting separation word open. Okay, tell me that then. Because otherwise, I'm telling you, you better start to get your 2 wide receivers, involved together in the same football game. They've yet to have that, Kenny, through 4 football games. Nothing from Cooper today. I think Peoples-Jones today was Peoples-Jones' turn, I guess. Right. I don't know how else to say it. I know Njoku had a strong performance today. But I'm talking about your 2 main wideouts, Cooper and Peoples-Jones. They have not been targeted together well in the same game in the first 4 games of the year. It's either been one of them or the other one.
Well,
something's got to change there.
Yeah,
something's got to change there.
Michael, I'm just doing some quick math on the fly here about your point about taking the points early.
Yes.
5 games today were decided in the NFL by 3 points or less. 6 games were decided by 4 points or less. Okay. So these games where what does the NFL want in New York, right? Roger Goodell and it, they want parity. They want these games to be close, and they're getting it. So when their analytics group should be seeing this and saying, you know what, guys, boy, there are a lot of evenly matched teams out here. Maybe we shouldn't turn away points when they're there for the taking. Maybe we should grab those 3 points early on, Kevin Stefanski. And I'll be curious to see next game, if he does not bend to the questions from the media, you and I and everybody else, and still tries to go for it, or maybe it knocks some sense into him, okay, and gets through his Ivy League brain that, no, the 3 points there are okay.
Kenny, to me, it's astounding that this is even a thing. I mean it. I mean that it's even a thing with this head football coach and this coaching staff that I'm almost thinking, well, why are they so arrogant to think that they can pass up points early in a football game? I'm starting to be at a loss, Ken, to come up with a real definitive way to describe this that makes me feel better and should make Browns fans feel better, because I don't know why they believe that this is the way to go for them. Man, they don't have to put points on the board when they're right there for you.
Right. I took it a step further. How about one possession game or less? 9 games today, 8 points or less, which is one possession. That's a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. The results today, there were 9 games that ended up being a one possession game today. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why points are at a premium. And Michael, okay, you got Deshaun Watson. I'll roll with you on that call because he's a little bit faster, quicker than Jacoby Brissett. Maybe he can make something happen scrambling. It was a nice touchdown run by Brissett, for one of the scores today.
Yeah.
He made a guy miss and everything, but he's not fast like Deshaun Watson. You got Watson in there, I might say, okay, that's fine. He might be able to make something happen out of that. But when you are quarterback challenged, as you are with Brissett, and they may not want to admit that because that hurts his feelings, but that's what he is. He's a backup for a reason. We go back to what we said in the opening segment. So that's why you take the points there. But again, I go back as we try and wind down and look ahead to next week and beyond. Do they make any changes? Does Stefanski give up the play calling? Does he fire Joe Woods? Does he change his approach down in the red zone? Do you expect any of these things to change from Stefanski and the coaching staff?
No, I don't. But again, they should. And the first thing to me is you be the CEO of the football game, Kevin, okay? Because you got enough to do with that in terms of every time that football is snapped. Alex Van Pelt, you got him as your offensive coordinator for a reason. Let him call the plays, please. You CEO the football game. You be the one that makes all the determinations in playing personnel and, how you're going to go about each series of downs with your offense and with your defense. But let your coordinators let your offensive coordinator do that. I really want to see Van Pelt be the play caller. Defensively, Ken, I don't know how much longer you should be. How about if I say it this way? You tell me that they should be willing to allow this to go on with Joe Woods and his defense. How much more do you need to see?
If I'm
How
Jimmy
many more
Haslam,
games do you have to lose?
Yeah, if I'm Jimmy Haslam, I'm asking Andrew Berry that question. I'm asking myself. I'm asking Ms. D. I'm asking JW. I'm asking, our pilot flying J, workers and everything. What do you all think about this? And Michael, there's a coach out there, okay? And somebody's going to go get him at the end of this year or maybe mid-season. Sean Payton. There's the big name that's hanging out there, right? And yes. Payton knows it too. And he's going to have the pick of the litter. He's going to look at everybody and say, all right, who gives me it? Well, they got Deshaun Watson at quarterback. I might want to work with him, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're Jimmy Haslam, just like last year, what did they tell us? Well, we started looking into Deshaun Watson in October last year. Remember, after the season was over, they told, well, guess what? If I'm Jimmy Haslam, I'm calling Sean Payton tonight, okay? And I'm saying, hey, Sean, we'll see how this thing turns out, but, would you have any interest maybe in coaching a Deshaun Watson? Would that pique your interest in coming out of retirement? If I'm Jimmy H, I'm making that phone call. I'm making some inquiries there from Sean Payton.
Yeah, I've always liked Sean Payton, Kenny, and always liked him in his stint, mostly successful, right, with the New Orleans Saints, yep. And coordinator before that in the National Football League with a lot of success. So yeah, I mean he's right there, number one, and I might start kicking that tire sooner rather than later.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So 4 games in, they're 2-2. Here's the good news. After all of this that we bitched and moaned about today, and deservedly so, they're tied for first place in their division because the Ravens blew a lead today and lost to the Bills. The Bengals stumbled early, lost their first 2, but they might be finding their footing. They've won their last 2, beat a good Miami team this past week. So 2-2, 2-2, 2-2. Browns, Ravens, Bengals, and the Steelers, who made the quarterback switch today to go to baby hands. Kenny Pickett blew a 20-10 lead in the fourth quarter and lost to the Jets They're bringing up the Raiders at 1-3 on their way to a 6-11 season, in my opinion.
6-11. Okay.
Yeah. So, but that's the good news, right? Even with these problems you're having early, you're still tied for first place. However, Michael, Chargers at home, Pats at home, on the road at the Ravens, Bengals at home, then your bye week.
Can they win 2 of those 4 football games you just mentioned? Because 2 will keep them where they want to be.
Yeah.
What do you think?
The
at 4 the Ravens, you just mentioned, the next 4.
Yeah, at the Ravens, no. But then again, the Ravens have blown 2 lead. Yeah. What? I mean, Michael, we just talked about parity in this league. Yeah, if they can come out of that at 4-4 at the bye week,
they're fine.
That's
fine.
golden.
Yeah.
You know, that should be the goal right there. Be 4-4, 500. And I think all along they were hoping to be 6-5 or 5-6 and then turn it over to Deshaun Watson. So that has to be the goal, in my opinion. They'll never admit they just want to go 2-2, but you go 2-2 in these next 4 and you sit there at 4-4 going into the bye, I think they would be thrilled with that.
Yeah, well, they can't say it, but you and I can, because we're being realistic.
Yep.
And I think that is what realism is. I'm going to be disappointed if they don't go 2-2, Ken, because again, if you're talking about a team that, and I think you and I had this too, we spent a lot of time on it too on the show. It's looking like, 10-7 is going to win this division.
Very possible.
Don't you think?
Very possible.
And I mean, so say, well, the Ravens have an opportunity to go, 11-6, 12-5. Well, not if they keep finishing games like they did today. Didn't they have a 20-point lead at one time? So, I think this is looking at 10-7 may win this division.
Michael, think about this. You play the Chargers with a dinged up Herbert,
right?
But he played well today, threw for over 340. They beat the Texans, but it's the Texans. And Bosa's out. So Bosa's out. You miss him and a dinged up Herbert. You play the Patriots. They're on their 3rd quarterback now, right? Mac Jones won't play in that game. Those are both at home. All right. Minimum 1-1 in those 2 games. Then you're at the Ravens. I'm marking down an L for that one, even though the Ravens have squandered leads. And the Bengals, Joey Burrow, Jackpot Joey, he wants that game in the worst way because he hasn't beaten Cleveland yet in his NFL career. So they're going to be all, going all out for that one, knowing it's a division game and Jackpot Joey hadn't won a game there. So they need to win these next 2, Michael, if they can. And then fall back and try and sneak one of the last 2 out if they want to get to 4-4. And the injuries say they got chances against the Chargers and the Patriots.
What do we say? Is this year they got 9 home games or 8? Which
8
one is
this
it?
year? 8 home games this year. Yeah.
Ken, 6-2 in the best of worlds, but no worse than 5-3. You can't go any worse than 5-3 at home, and then you're going to duplicate that on the road as well and go 5-4 to be 10-7. I don't know. That may be a tall ask. So these home games, man, extremely important for them to put in the win column so that they can because for them, Ken, I think it's about get into December with a shot to win the division. You agree? I think that's what this team should be looking at.
And that's going to be a tall order, Michael, because after the bye week,
it is going to be, yes.
You go to Miami right out of the bye, at Buffalo out of the bye, 2nd game, Tampa Bay at home, and then Watson returns at Houston, right? So, ideally you want to be 6-5 after that Tampa Bay game, probably 5-6. But if you're at 4-7 and you bring Watson back, you expect him to win all 7 games or 6 out of the last 7 to win your division. That's going to be a tough task.
Big time.
So we'll see.
And again, then we got to, it's for about, another 2 months down the road, but the man hasn't played in almost 2 full football seasons.
Right. It'll be 700 days, I think, between regular season games for him, Mike.
Yeah.
When he comes back.
Yeah.
So, all right, Michael, top 3 order of the blame game today. Stefanski 1, Joe Woods 2, Brissett 3 for me. Are you okay, or you got it in another order?
No, that's fine. Normally, and again, it's got to be the head football coach for me, one, Ken, for the reasons I gave earlier on. And then Joe Woods says, again, if it's not what you're doing philosophically, then you better start making some player changes then. I know you're a little limited, but you better start going to guys who are currently backups and see what they can get done, Kenny. And, look, again, we can sit here forever and ever, which we kind of have done. This is what Jacoby Brissett is.
Yep.
You can't. I don't think either one of us expect this guy to come out and light it up, and that's why I love last week. Did you hear how many fans start to, what if he's 9-2?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he's done that before, huh? As an NFL starting quarterback in 9 years. Okay.
No, he hasn't.
Sure.
He doesn't have a winning record as a starting quarterback. He had more touchdowns than interceptions, but not more wins than losses. And that's why he was available. And that's why he's a career backup. All right, Michael, that puts the finishing touches on a 23-20 loss to the Atlanta Falcons here on the Reghi and Roda podcast. We'll do this again next week after that game against Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. And we'll see if any changes are made during the week. And during that game, and we'll see if we're singing a different tune next week on the Press Play Podcast Network. All right.
Yeah, always fun, Kenny. Always good to chop it up with you, buddy.
A pleasure as always, Michael. Back at you. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks to Chase Smith out there at the Press Play Podcast Network, our CEO and producer today, making sure you heard this in the podcatosphere. Have a great week, everybody. Michael and I will talk to you again next week on the R&R Podcast.